Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Mastering Retention Podcast. Today is a very special day because I do believe that this is our 100th episode of Mastering Retention, which kind of blows my mind. Um, Now, you might not believe it, but when we started doing this, I was kind of terrified of doing a podcast because I'm kind of introverted. I might not be able to, or you might not know that offhandedly, but yeah, talking to people kind of terrified me. But um, as I forced myself into it and I started doing the first few episodes, it's actually become like probably my favorite time of the week. I get to talk to really brilliant people like Yosi Tal, who's on today, and ask them all sorts of fun and interesting questions. Like I feel like I'm like getting so much out of this. If I can just retain 3% of what you say, I become so much smarter. So truly a privilege. Oh yeah, I am Tom Hammond, co-founder of UserWise and the host today. But what a special episode! And today we have a very very exciting episode that we're going to be going through today. But before we get to that, Yosi, I always like to start with what's your story? What's your journey? How'd you get into games?
Okay, so first of all, I'm really privileged to be here, especially in the 100th episode, my first podcast as well. Actually, I started my career as an engineer, so switching into product management after 10 years was a bit of a challenge. As you already said, you're introverted, as do I. I used to live in my own box, code, and not talk to many people when I didn't have a good reason to. And when I switched to product, I realized I need to be a pivot. I need to talk with people. I need to talk to people differently. The way you talk to an engineer, the way you talk to an analyst or someone from design and art is very different. So this is I think the biggest thing I learned in my early days. And so as far as my journey, as I mentioned, I started as an engineer. I ended up in a company called Dragonplay, and now it's called Saplay. So I been an engineer in one of the legacy games, in the poker games. After about 4 years, and they offered me an opportunity to transition into a product role, and I accepted. I had always like interest and love for the high level journey of a player, something that you wouldn't expect from a back end engineer. Things that like user experience and all of those design elements. So I was very, first of all, I'm a gamer myself, so it really helps. Um, all the way from playing in the arcade to consoles to PC and now mobile. So I was always interested in to put myself in the shoes of a player and see what are the challenges and pains. So when I transitioned into my first product role, I learned all the pain of being a product manager. Suddenly, I'm in the shoes of the guy who decides the why and the how and the when. So when I was an engineer, I used to think, hey, this product dude doesn't know what he's talking about. Suddenly it's the other way around. They think I don't know what I'm talking about. And I learned a lot from the engineers, I learned a lot from my peers, and learning what data is, um, learning the industry. I didn't know anything about slot games. So it was a social casino company. I learned a lot. I used to also love it. And my first time in the casino was very exciting. And after about 4 years, being a product manager there, I also transitioned into a bigger team where I went to a really big rewrite in a game called Quick Casino. And I found a new opportunity in Scopely. Been there for about a year. It was a relocation opportunity that didn't go well due to personal reasons. And now I'm in Papaya Gaming, which is a very interesting company, skill-based, real money gaming.
Yeah.
Um, very new in the industry. So really interesting challenges there, because something that you think would work from free to play, you need to adjust your mind a bit. So yeah, but a lot of elements are still there, retention wise or other KPIs. But you need to make the switch to, hey, those players could withdraw their money at any time. You need to give them enough reason to play, to stay for the long term. And yeah, so that's the high level journey for me.
That's really awesome. Well, folks, we have a special episode in store for you today. Yosi has put together a whole episode on retention. So it's going to be awesome. So let's dive in. Yosi, start with maybe the basics. Obviously, everyone kind of gets the idea that, yeah, keeping your players around day after day, week after week, ideally year after year, right, is better. But what would you say the pillars of retention strategy should be?
Okay, so when you think about reasons that player comes back and play your game, you need to talk about the different type of player, different motivations. So you could divide this into, let's say, 4 of those. Progression, that I have something to do, could be today, this week, this month, or for the long term. Could be something like status. I have earned something for something that it took me so long. I'm now in the level of champion, and I want to keep it that coming. I want to keep my status, or maybe even become better. Another element could be social. I play where my friends are. I like to meet new people. I like to play with the friends I have. Like maybe could be someone from my family or someone from my friends. And another element could be personalization. Like I've played so much in this game, I've earned this hat and this costume and this shiny new I don't know, shield or a hammer, and I want to keep more and I don't want to lose it. So I keep playing because I've enjoyed so much the things that I've earned. So I think that these pillars pretty much cover most of the motivations. Of course, for social, it could be, hey, I'm a competitive player, or someone who likes to collaborate with other people. So those divide between those a bit. But yeah, like those are the different motivations as far as I can see those.
Okay, I've got some questions. Progression. I kind of get the idea of short, medium, and like long-term goals and stuff, but I'm struggling to connect the dots. So, I don't know. Let's say like Clash of Clans. How would these progressions work within there, or is there a better game to like have an example of like, what's my maybe daily goals, my weekly or monthly, or maybe like a year-long goal, or what is the right frame of time for each of these to think in?
Yeah, so when you divide progression into short, medium, and long term, you could think about these are like I'll give like the examples I have on top of my head. You come in the game, you have a daily mission. You have something to do today to complete and get a reward or something for tomorrow. This could be from any game that you can find in the industry. I like to present something that I had in my previous company in a game called Jackpot Party. They had an interesting thing. They would give you a list of things to do today, spins X times, or win a certain amount of chips, a subset of tasks tailored for you. And as a reward, you would get coins to continue your great session, and something for tomorrow, let's say a booster, like double XP for tomorrow. So you kind of hit 2 spots here. You extend the session by giving your players something to do and have fun as a reward for their investment, and also a reason to come back tomorrow. So it works on a dual purpose here. For weekly mission, they have like multiple things that you can do. Sometimes a daily mission contributes to a weekly goal. Sometimes it doesn't. In, let's say, games like House of Fun, they have a seasonal event that they have like a weekly bar. So this weekly bar feels as a result from the daily task that you're doing. So this is a good example of how features feed each other. And for something that's like a seasonal thing, like the more like maybe a 1 month or 2 months, you could do like any season pass. Clash Royale is my greatest example because I'm a sucker for Clash Royale. So you have the things to do. You have also an opportunity to monetize your player because you have two tracks of rewards. So this is like a good example of something that could last up to a month. Of course, you need to present the value proposition to the player. So why am I doing this today? Why am I doing this for the entire week? Or what am I getting if I invest enough to the entire season?
So thinking about Clash Royale, and I play that game a lot. Once you max out your, cards in your deck, like does it really progression kind of goes away and it's more about status of like how high up the ladder you kind of get there? Like tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about how status kind of works with this.
So status could be anything from, hey, I'm getting my card into a certain status. I'm getting like a gold shiny um, um, theme for it, or customization. It could be anything other than that, like achievements. So in Heyday or other games, you have like achievements. You've played 5 games, you've built 5 buildings, you've done this, you've done that. You've played for a year. That's also an achievement to celebrate each and every milestone you have in the game. And also, if you're more into the competitive games like Clash Royale, you have a leaderboard, you have leagues, you have things that also you can lose if you don't play. So in Clash Royale, you have a season with the leagues. If you don't play enough, you might drop out or be demoted to a lower league. So you lose your status. So that's another reason to keep playing day after day or season after season.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, let's talk about social a little bit. Like I know for me, when I played Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, which were, probably the two like mobile games that I played the most, um, after a certain while, I pretty much just logged into those games out of like an obligation for my guild because I knew they were doing like a clan war or something. So I need to log in and do my part. So um social's always kind of been interesting to me. Would you say that social is the most important part of like true long-term retention?
It depends on the game, but if
Mm.
you want to max out on the impact, you would add some social element to the game. It could be something as little as sending lives or sending gifts in a game, but it's I think that the most impact you will have if you join people into some teams, some guilds, some clans to have common goal, or maybe even compete with other clans. So what you were discussing before, it's called like social obligation. You feel obliged to come back and play the game, but also it shouldn't be a task. It should be something that is worth to you as well. If I will contribute to this, I don't know, clan wars or anything that happens in the game, I also gain from it for my personal journey. So as long as those two are connected, if I help my team, I gain something for myself and not just the team. I think it's the best impact. Also, you would often see things like a clan offer or something that you purchase something for yourself, but you also give something to your team. So
Mm,
if you're on the receiving end, you say, "Hey, Tom just bought the clan pack, and I just received something for free. It makes me feel better. I'm now feel maybe obliged to do the same for the other people." So all of these, like it turns into a loop that people are giving or reciprocating. So this way, it makes people come back, play the game, enjoy it even more, feel more connected to the game, and not just feel like it's a daily task just to log in and do something.
interesting. That actually reminds me of Clash of Clans, their battle pass mechanic, and how, and the real reason that I would buy it, um, it wasn't for the content that I got for myself. It was actually for the 1 gem donations of clan troops to folks. So Basically, as you play Clash of Clans, you have this thing called the clan castle.
Mhm.
And people in your clan can donate troops to your clan castle, which you can use as an extra force multiplier for an attack, which is
Mhm.
sometimes essential to be able to defeat certain bases, or you use them as defense. So when your base gets attacked, these troops will come out and they'll, kill the enemy troops, and it can save you a lot of resources and stuff. Um, but in order to get those, someone in your clan has to mess up their own army, spend time creating the troops that you want, and go through the process. And, I tell you what, it was a pain in the butt to do so. Like, I would like mess up my army comp, and sometimes I would forget about it. Or by the time it was like ready, somebody else in the clan had donated those troops, and now I messed up my whole army. I've got all these things that I don't want in there. And, it was just a pain in the butt. And then they introduced the battle pass, which said, if you buy the battle pass, we're going to give you 1 gem donations for clan castle stuff. So I don't have to mess with my army or anything like that. It's just like 1 little gem, and I can donate, each of these different creatures so they get exactly what they want. Um, and I would buy the battle pass just to have access to that, so that I'm doing my fulfillment of social obligation, but it takes away so much pain for me of not having to like deal with all this hassle and time management to fulfill this obligation.
Mhm.
And I get all this extra useful, interesting stuff that comes along with the battle pass, but I really bought it for that social obligation there. Um, I don't know. I'm curious. Like, have you ever seen any other type of social obligation mechanic, or something like similar to that like drives certain behaviors that you wouldn't see otherwise?
I think we discussed good examples for it. Like it could be anything from a live up with a team that you're enrolled into a team and then you need to do something. It could be a guild. It could be the thing that you mentioned with the battle pass. Now the battle pass is a very magical thing. It attracts so many KPIs and so many motivations that it could be relevant to anyone. Like it could be relevant to me because I want to in Clash Royale, for example, I want to queue my chest and I want to have more benefits in the game. It could be for the social player like you that you want to gain something from the battle pass in order to achieve something better with your clan. It could be for the people who want to gain more stuff, more cosmetics from the battle pass itself. So the battle pass is something that once you create the proper mechanics, the proper rewards, the proper social elements, this battle pass can connect everything. And it doesn't really, touch about retention. It touches about the great features that you can have in the game as long as you build the infrastructure for it. As far as social itself, the other mechanics, not something that comes to mind, but of course that if you deliver the value proposition of being social and what it contributes to you, it makes things worthwhile because it's not only, hey, send gems to someone or send a gift to someone. It's also, hey, if you send a gift, you gain something back, or you gain more status, you get more points into something that touches on your own journey. So it's really interesting to map out your game, see what things you can do with social to make the journey of the player worthwhile.
What's interesting with social? I remember I was talking to a buddy of mine who worked on World of Warcraft, and they were having issues with their early player retention. And most of their efforts was going towards like the elder game play, all the players that have been around for years and years. Um, and when they really looked hard as far as, why are these players not staying around like they used to stick around? Well, turns out there's weren't that many of them. They weren't like getting together, grouping and doing quests together and joining guilds and things like that. And so they said, how can we make it more social? And they had no dev resources. So what do? They made a free Facebook group, and they added a little link on the launcher that said, don't forget to join our Facebook group. And a good number of people did. And those players that did, it increased their retention by 50%. just because they made it a little bit easier for them to find and play with other players to get that social experience is really, key to World of Warcraft. I thought it was super fascinating, but I digress. Tell me about personalization.
Okay, so personalization is all about I want more shit, and I love the shit that I got, and I want to get even more. And it even better if it connects to some sort of competition. I have more stuff than you. I have more value than you. And this one game that I played in the last year that really takes it to another level, which is Project Makeover. Now I know what people are gonna say. Hey, this is a very feminine game that you need to design and all sort of elements. But if you're looking from a game design perspective, it does an excellent job. What you do, you renovate some space, and on the way you gain items and customization for your own personal space, your own avatar, your own let's say little room inside the game. Now, as far as being there, and it's like a metaverse, creating your own avatar and playing around with different clothes and different hats and different cosmetics that you have. There's also some element of leaderboard there,
Mm,
that you have a closet ward. So they transform all of the cosmetics that you own to some value, and then they have a leaderboard that you can rank people in as far as the closet value that they have. So this is a very interesting thing, that you're competing with others over I have more stuff than you, which is very interesting. But as far as cosmetics and personalization, like you have like different vanity items, like different banners in different games, frames for your profile, emojis, which is something that you wouldn't think that it could do much impact. But as far as social games like Clash Royale and other games, these are the things that people are spending hard currency on or getting as a reward in battle passes and other competitions, which doesn't cost any money to the game. Like you're not giving something back as far as currency, but you're giving them an experience. You're giving them value in personalization. They have an opportunity to express themselves better in the game because of that. So it's always great to add some elements if you're able to, because then you would diversify the rewards that you're giving to the players and not just currency,
mm,
currency, currency. And it makes things interesting. It makes an opportunity for players to diversify, to differentiate themselves from other players. If you're having like a huge leaderboard in the game, like you would have in I don't know, also the game like in Project Makeover or other games, Yahtzee with Bodies, where I was previously, to see players with different frames, different profile banners that they got from a live op, or they got from the battle pass, or they got from because they bought it with hard currency. It makes you think, hey, maybe I want this item as well. Maybe I want this, gold shiny Christmas frame for my avatar as well.
mm,
It makes you think. It makes you compare with people. It stands out because it's not like a flat experience where everyone, the only thing that you see different is the avatar, and it could be like not even a Facebook avatar. So it gives an opportunity for people to express themselves differently, to differentiate themselves from other players, and it's really a great tool to have in the game to make people feel different later on, create
mhm.
communities with one another. So it's something that really a great motivator.
It's very cool. So all these things sound great. Um, I'm curious, can you explain retention in, let's say, a simple game like solitaire or Sudoku? Because some of those games don't, I mean, from my perspective, doesn't seem to really have any of this stuff. And players come back and play that day after day for years. So I'm curious how retention kind of works in, some games like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, when creating a simple game like that, you probably want to put the no-brainers inside, like a 7-day calendar, a 30 days calendar, something that will give value to the players to come back day after day. So if I make it to the 7th day, I gain this really huge reward or booster in case of maybe if this is like a free-to-play solitaire, like Private Solitaire. Or if I come back to the game, let's say 30 days in a row, I get a huge reward, maybe even a hard currency. So when creating a simple game like that, those are like the no-brainers that you can put. And there are many references. Some show the reward, in some other cases it's a surprise. But to show to the player what he would gain from returning day after day is a key here. And then you add things like you add the meta, you add the daily missions, you add the weekly progression, you add social elements. If it's a competitive game, you add leagues. It then builds up to an incrementing effect that you will have on retention. Of course, like any other thing, you need to test everything to see how it affects your day 1, day 7, day 30. Experiment with different variations. Don't just copy from another game and think, okay, this is going to work, because everything has its own limit. Every game has its own audience. So you need to tweak things, you need to experiment, you need to see if everything that you do fits with the type of audience that you have. And from there, you keep adding and see where you're getting into.
Yeah, I'm not sure though that really explains like how these games have retention currently, because they don't have any of those things in it. So like it seems like there's something else here that maybe we're missing. Like, okay, here's an idea. Is it just about the challenge or the feeling of accomplishment that you get when you complete a solitaire game, and it feels good enough that you want to have that feeling again, especially if it took you a certain number of tries to get there? Or Sudoku, does it just feel good once you figure out the first couple and the rest of them just kind of start to fall in line? Like, is it a certain feeling that you get when you play a game that ultimately kind of drives retention, and some of these things are more superficial on top, so to speak?
Yeah, so of course there's a sense of accomplishment when you do something. The thing that you always need to keep in mind that just like you have a solitaire game, there are like 100 competitors out there. You need to find the reasons for the player not to tomorrow go and install some other game, because solitaire is solitaire, but the journey that you're giving to a player, the benefits that you will give to a player if he stays in your game is key here. Because if I play solitaire, I could play your game, I could pass few level. If I don't have like a thing to do in 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, if you don't create those journeys in the game, those players will not stick around for a long time, because they will go and try out something new and something new and something new until something sticks. So you need to find those little motivations for the players to stick in your game, and that's the key here.
I gotcha. Yeah, because I was thinking a little bit about, like, when I played League of Legends, and I remember one time when, just for kicks, I decided to buy Teemo. And Teemo's not really that good of a champion, but he's kind of trolly. And I was in the mood to troll a little bit. And somehow I ended up going, 18-3 in the game. I was MVP. I was killing people from across the map that ran into my shrooms. Like, it was amazing. It was a beautiful match. And I felt awesome after that. And do you know what it made me want to do? It made me want to play Teemo more. And I kid you not, I played another 20 or 25 games, maybe not that day, but over the course of like the next week or two, where I played as Teemo, and I got destroyed because, like I said, Teemo really isn't that good of a champion. Like, I just got trounced. But I was like chasing that magical moment that I felt in the game. And like, it didn't seem like many of these other core things were a driver at that point. It was like, I want to feel the way that I felt in that moment again. Um, so yeah, I'm just curious, like, is that sort of feeling, like, is that the underlying core of driving? So like, let's take your jackpot party slots game is the feeling that you get when you finally hit that grand jackpot, like the thing that you're really chasing. And some of this other stuff encourages you to make a habit of it or to come back and get some cool things, or you get more opportunities to chase after that.
Yeah. So what you're touching about something which is really important, which is the first time user experience. As the player comes into a game, you want to give him like a sense of this magical moment, of this accomplishment. So we would get to chase it more and more and more. So for a slots game, there are many games that do it. You log into the game, you play your first slot. After a certain amount of spins, you hit the jackpot, and it's amazing. You feel great. You feel that it might be artificial, but you want to do it yourself again and again, especially if you're addicted to this kind of genre. In other games, you play your first maybe battle royale or battle with other players, you get this wins, and you want to have more of those, especially if the game celebrates it in a good manner. You want to get this excitement again and again, and it touches not only on the first time user experience in the game, but also in every live up that you create. So for example, for every new season of a collectible, you receive a pack, a free pack on the house, and you open the pack and you get the cards of the collectibles, and you feel great because it's like when you were a kid and you were unwrapping the little cards for a sticker pack, and you want to get this sensation again, so you go and chase it. So you go and play the games, and you want to find those collectibles, and it's a recurring theme in a lot of live ups, that they say, okay, this first experience is on us, so you get this taste, and then you want to get more. So it's really about creating this excitement, this magical moment, and make people want to get it again and again.
Gotcha. Okay. It's very interesting. I want to talk about rewards calendars a little bit. I see them used in a lot of games. I'm curious, like, have you seen any best practices? Have you ever done them, let's say, wrong, or like you made some big changes and they negatively impacted, your game or your retention or anything like that? Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts?
So from my experience, we use some of those in the past, like 30 days retention or weekly calendar. And I think that the key here is about the tuning, because it's all about giving the right reward to the right player, stretching it as it goes. Because if you're too aggressive and you ask people to come in every single day just to get this one little reward, they're not gonna do it. Some people have lied. They do something. They don't log in every single day. So you don't need to punish those. Like if you go into some games like Coin Master or Gardenscape, you will have like this weekly calendar, and you have this monthly bar above it. So the weekly one resets you every time that you miss a day, but the monthly one or the long-term one doesn't. Like it accumulates on every login. So you need to find a proper balance. You need to have those things in the game that you would experiment and with the different rewards, different practices. Try to think from a player perspective what it would be like to log in day after day. What would I gain from it? If I lose one day because I have a holiday, I want to go out, I want to do something, how would it affect me? Some games even monetize from this thing, like they offer like an insurance, so you won't lose the stuff while you're away. So there are many ways to do it, but having like a weekly or monthly calendar, I think it's a basic to a lot of casual games, like a lot of mid-core as well. I can think of Marvel Strike Force as one example of a game that does it really well. Yeah, so there are many examples in the market for it.
Okay. Very interesting. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, because in the last 10 or 15 minutes here, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this idea of a personalized player experience, or the idea that, you know, some players of, let's say, Clash Royale may come to the game because they have the social elements. Some players may come for the clan wars, some come for the events. Like, there's probably different parts of the game that they like, that brings them back. And if they can have more opportunities to do more of the thing that they love, they're probably more likely to be retained and keep coming back to do those things. um, so I'm curious, like, how have you seen segmentation of player experiences used in a game well,
So
or have you even? Yeah.
yeah, so segmentation, I think, is key to everything. Like you don't have one journey that fits all. So it touches on the rewards on the daily calendar. It touches on the daily missions. It touches on the different challenges that you put into a player. Like if I'm a heavy player, does a lot of sessions, I probably need a bigger challenge as someone who plays once a week with very low sessions. The rewards should be different as well. So everything that you do, need to think of what is the right value for the right player, what is the right challenge for the right player. It touches on everything that you do in the game. There's not one journey that fits everyone. It touches on the FTUI, it touches on the daily mission, the daily calendar, touches on the different offers. You need to experiment. You need to break the different players into different groups that you identify according to the data. Of course, the one player who plays heavily doesn't have the same journey as a player who logs in once in a while, plays a few sessions, that's it. So the challenges need to be different. The rewards need to be different. So it touches on really everything in the game. So segmentation is super, super important. Once you establish your audience, you have enough data that you can play with and see what different segments you have. And from there, do the experiments, to break down, see what things impact differently to different groups, and take it from there.
That's great. Okay, so folks are probably, because I'm thinking of it, how do you actually segment, or like what sort of segmentation would you do, like on the Fatui? Like, the players haven't really done anything yet. Like, how and when should you change things for a player?
Um, it's correct that they haven't done anything, but for some companies, they have the data on which campaign those people came from. So you would be able to maybe segment a bit differently. You maybe have the option of experimenting a bit, do different journeys and see which journey is the best one.
Mm.
Start your different features in different levels, see what things are right for different audiences. Maybe in some countries, let's say in the US, things work differently than for audience in the East. So you need to work with this and see. Of course, that later on, when they become regular players in the game, it's much easier to find out those different answers to different questions and segment the offers according to different buckets. Segment the challenges according to how many days are in the game, what's your seniority, how often you play, if it's like a social casino, what's your average bet. There's so many things you can do that touches on the different parameters that you have in the game, each to its own genre. And from there, you'll be able to, with a lot of experimentation, tailor the best experience for each user.
Sounds like a lot of work. How many people does it take to actually be able to do something like that? Like, is this basically like a full-time job, just doing segmentation and testing, or?
I think it does, because you need to be fully focused on it.
And of course, there's a lot of compromise. If you do a lot of testing, how long will you wait for the results to come? How confident are you in the results that came? Do you feel confident enough with 80% accuracy or confidence in the data? Some things are you leave to a hunch because the test results are not that strong. You need to see, but for every company, I think it's best that they have a team that this is dedicated to those tasks. Of course, if your company is well divided into product monetization, I think it's well in the monetization area that you on a daily basis see what things happen in the game, do the different tasks, target different parts of the game. Don't focus only on engagement, only on retention, only on monetization. Do different tests and see how those work out. And yeah, the more testing, the better, because you wouldn't be able to find out those answers if you don't get the proper data.
Yeah. What's the biggest mistake you've made or you've seen somebody else make related to segmentation?
Yeah, so when I was in my first game, the slate was pretty clean. We didn't have missions, we didn't have anything. So I took examples from other games in the company, other social casino games, for those new features. And I remember we took a daily mission feature and adapted it into our own game. And on the way, we took the different segmentation capabilities and formulas into our own audience and realized after the tests and after the impact, the low impact that we got from it, we realized that it wasn't tailored 100% to our audience. Our audience doesn't play the same amount of days. Our audience doesn't bet the same way. Our audience just play differently. So don't assume that one segmentation is good for two different games, two different audience. Try to think ahead of the things that you have, the data that you can convert into those segmentation. And of course, iterate, and iterate.
That's great. Is there any way, like, if you could go back and do it today, like, would you design things differently? Or like, is there a way that you can use players, play styles, behaviors, or surveys, or something like that, you can get a better idea of like where to start with that iteration?
Yeah, so I think the thing that I will do differently is maybe to investigate data a bit better, to better understand together with the analyst or BI or whoever is in charge of this area in the game, to better understand who are the players in the game, what are the different patterns, how do they play differently, and from there to build the proper configuration and segments for the future, and not assume that okay, I have the segments, those buckets would fit well into my game as well, and hope for the best. So of course this is like a rookie mistake, but it's still a good lesson to learn that not everything acts the same way. Not two games are the same. Not two audiences are the same, and you need to better understand your players and how they behave.
Cool. That's great. Well, Yosi, I think we're just about out of time here. So I don't know. Do we want to do our last unofficial question where we ask retention, since we've spent most of the episode on it? Do you have any magical tricks or tips that you haven't already covered?
I think that the key here is to build your way up. Don't go for the season pass. Don't go for the very long-term retention things. First of all, make sure they stay in the game for 1 day, then 7 days, then 30 days, and then work your way from there. Because if you build from the bottom, you will be able to connect the dots better. One feature that contributes into day 1 retention could contribute to the day 7 retention. You would add like incrementing effects on those features, and overall, you will be able to see the long-term effect of it after a while. Experiment again over and over and over again. Look for the data. Look for things that you think your players are here to play. They're here. You have the privilege to entertain them in their 15 minutes of glory or 1 hour of fun time in a day. Make sure that you deliver the best experience. Make sure that the first time they play in the game, it will be as amazing as possible, because these are the things that they will look for when they continue playing the game.
That's great. Well, thank you much, Yosi. If people do have any questions or follow-up or anything, is there a good way for them to get in contact with you?
You can contact me on LinkedIn. It's all good, and I will be very, very, very happy to answer any question on any subject.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.